Yeah, sure. So there's three use cases that I'll talk about here. The first one is transaction fraud prevention. And this is a very dynamic space. It's complex. There's lots of data, lots of variables. And fraud managers who are trying to prevent fraud from all of these bad actors are competing with fraudsters who are also using AI. They have ever-evolving tactics. They work together, they share knowledge. And so they are tasked with doing something that is incredibly difficult. And they're doing this generally with static rules-based systems. And so they have to use rules to catch fraud and say, okay, this transaction has these criteria, and therefore it's likely fraudulent. And that's a very complex thing to do. And so we're working with some of our customers to build agents to address this in a variety of different ways. One that I think is probably the most important off the top of my head is to identify what we call areas of opportunity to create new fraud rules. So this could be analyzing the data and saying, there's a lot of fraud for this particular thing, so we'll create a new fraud rule to capture that type of fraud. But it could also be modification of existing rules. So if you have a fraud score, for example, maybe you have a fraud scoring system, you say, okay, all of the transactions that have a fraud score over 800 will likely be fraud. Well, that score of 800 over time will change. And it might be that that needs to move to 750, or maybe it needs to move to 850, and there's variables there. So the fraud rule that you've created 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, that might not be as effective as it should be because the ecosystem has changed. Fraud has moved into another direction. So you can use AI to actually identify those areas of change and modify that rule, dynamically based off what's happening. You can also use it to look at ineffective or overlapping rules and make sure that you have a consistent rule set. And then overall, with all of the changes, you can have a lot of noise with fraud and what transactions are happening, or scams or threats or whatever it is. And so you can also use AI to identify the trends and say, okay, we're going to send an alert. This looks like an emerging fraud scheme that we'll have to be aware of, and change our process or change our rules so you can kind of cut through the noise and identify this and have an alert that sort of escalates this internally within your organization.